Content over everything.
Eyes. One day I said, "You got those piercing blue eyes she had." I said, "You look very Aryan." And her face was like, "What?" Because I'm always calling her a Nazi. I said, "You look like you've got a face like an Aryan."
I used to say to her, "You got Slavic cheekbones."
So what they
But you know,
like to talk,
Wow.
I mean, they're going mad, wouldn't they?
what we would like to talk,
There'd be a hate speech.
actually is not one subject.
Okay.
There are different subjects related to, first of all, the history of Speaker's Corner that he proposed, and I think is very interesting.
Right.
And the Speaker's Corner throughout the years, Speaker's Corner today, and the Speaker's Corner tomorrow. You agree?
The radicalised.
Sweets and bread.
So where do we go from? We go from the origination of Speaker's Corner. I mean, anybody can now Google this and look up the history of this. So rather than giving a whole history lesson, we don't have to do that. But we know that it relates historically back to Victorian times. It relates to the Tyburn Tree. It relates to the condemned man coming on a Sunday to be executed. It relates to the Catholic martyrs, the whole thing. So I suppose the freedom of speech angle, coming in from your right to have your last say before execution, is a very powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to say to you, I'm going to kill you, and this is your last words on earth, that's a very powerful statement.
Were women ever executed? Or was
Yes.
it only men?
No, women as well. Yeah, women were executed. I'm sure you can find
They
out.
were usually thieves.
Yeah. So rather than giving like a history for this, you can look up your own history of Speaker's Corner. So you Google it, you see it. But the basics, that's the basics of it really. So the fundamental fact that we're sitting here today, being able to say what we, me being able to say what I want to say and protecting your right to say what you want to say to me, really comes from that. Have you anything to say before you die, sir? That was the issue. So
My observation
very strong.
was this,
Yeah.
that I read somewhere that the reason why there were public executions was because the crowd really went to see somebody hanging, not because of the goriness of the hanging, but because they wanted more than anything else hear the last words of the person being executed. The last words of a dead person are something that fascinates people. If you go on YouTube, it's full of the last words of people, important people in the movie industry, in the entertainment industry. So these last words, they seem to be something that people crave for.
Well, that's why they said it in English language. They said, you've got the final say.
And that's so the fact that we're standing here, aren't we?
You've got the final say.
Sorry, the fact.
The last word.
Thank you, Steve.
You've got
Yeah.
the last word of the day.
Stephen is absolutely factually correct. We are sitting down. Sorry, I'm so used to standing here. Anyway, the fact we're sitting here, protecting each other's right to free speech, on the basis of that was the last words, is a very powerful thing to protect. One little thing I'd like to quickly tell you, very quick, which you might like from a factual point of view. The term "fallen off the wagon" relates to the executions here at the Tyburn Tree. What happened was that on a Sunday, at where is now Tottenham Court Road, the condemned were brought from Newgate Prison, which is the Old Bailey as we now know it, was Newgate Prison, and they would be brought on the back of a wagon coming up, which is now Oxford Street, and on the way they would stop the wagon and they would get off and they would go and have a drink. The condemned person with their hangman or executioner would go into a public house at the time, and they would have their final drink before execution. And they would get back on the wagon and come up the top. So the terminology of he's fallen off the wagon or got back on the wagon comes from that issue. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So the saying, he's fallen off the wagon or he's getting on the wagon, comes from actually that.
They drink alcohol as well.
Yeah.
So if
So
they were drunk,
Well, I suppose if you were just about to be hung, it was better to have a few jars before it happened, really. Anyway, that's a bit of history, but that's how we've played on words in the English language, and a terminology comes literally from the street we're sitting by here.
Yeah, the first time I came to Speaker's Corner, I remember there was an old, very dignified English soldier. He was probably in his mid-80s.
Yeah.
And he used to be toothless, very old. And he used to always say to the crowd, I fought my whole life for the crown, and I got caught by those savages. And when...
he was referred to black people.
No, I never specified. He was quite correct. He was quite politically correct. I was caught by those savages.
Savages.
And then, thanks to the intervention of the sergeant, they freed me. And when they freed me, they said, you are an idiot. How could you get caught?
Yeah.
And he said...
Court-martial for being an idiot.
Yeah. And he said, what should I do? Well, go again back to London and get another... get subscribed again for the Soldier of the Crown, and you will see, I don't think they will get you back. So he came all the way back to London. In London, they sent him to a medical visit, and they said, okay, show us your teeth. And back then I had beautiful teeth. And I said, what? Why should I show my teeth? I'm going to fight the enemy, not to eat them. So, but I was really surprised to see the soul of humanity. In this kind of people, you see that humanity can put humor when there is drama, or vice versa.
But I think that's a very key thing about Britain. Now, this is why I'd like to open the discussion a bit, because we are a very satirical people.
Yes.
Our comedy is based on satire. If you go back on YouTube now and look at videos back from the 60s, 70s, 80s, we laugh at politics, religion, we ridicule it, and it's all done in such a what it was a very clever, unpolitically correct way. It's the British DNA, it's the way we are. So to laugh at religion, race in such a way, but not to lose sight that the balance between offending and humour is a very thin line, but it is a very intellectual line. And most times you can get away with it if you know how to do it.
Most of humour is sadistic, because it is always attacking the ridiculous side of each one of us.
Unfortunately, Muslims can't see the funny side of this and always rebel. Like Muhammad's cartoon. You remember?
They take it personally.
When they started burning the books. You know what I mean? They just went absolutely.
I mean, from the Jewish side of my heritage, we are the funniest people in the world. The Jews laugh at themselves about everything, about our history. We laugh about the way we carry on.
Mother-in-laws.
Everything. We laugh about every little stereotype that people put Jews in. We laugh at ourselves about. The issue is that humour and laughter is sometimes a common denominator. It's what binds us. So we can sit here today and turn all this something very serious here into a moment of humour between us if we just know how to do it. And then you become human together. Humour's very important.
What about you, Stephen?
What about me?
When is the first time you came?
I honestly can't remember the very, very first time, but I was quite quiet when I first started coming here.
So, bewildered.
And it was heckling Diane that gave me my voice.
So you were also heckling
I remember.
You became friendly with her for a while, but she wouldn't accept your friendship.
It was only because I used to work quite near where she lived, and occasionally I'd bump into her during the week. And like away from here, just like walking down the road, she was like just a friendly little old lady. She was normal then. And you wouldn't know, So it was near Queen's Park.
Now Becca's in the park. Okay.
Oh, right. Please probably break her teeth. Thank you. Spasiba. Spasiba большое. We've had a sweet. What more do you want?
We don't take our wallet in the car. This is totally 100% free entertainment.
Yeah. Who are you pointing to? Please.
It's the bread.
Oh,
Free entertainment.
Thank you.
she didn't say thank you for that.
But the issue with Speaker's Corner now is we're being here, and we're sitting here being filmed and recorded, whatever, which I like now. Okay. By the way, Riza, don't worry, I'm not here to flash it on while we're being videoed, because I think it's a good thing. However, that's another change to Speaker's Corner over the years. For me, coming here from a child, and my father used to bring me here in 1968. Right, when you think what I've seen here. What happened in Speaker's Corner stayed in Speaker's Corner. So when I left and went outside the gates, and in fact most of the corner was over there originally, when I left the gates on a Sunday evening, afternoon with my father, that was it for the week. That was it. What happens now is this place continues on a weekly basis outside of Speaker's Corner. Yeah, so in some ways we could knock that, and in other ways it has publicised it as well. So it makes it interesting that maybe someone can see this conversation tomorrow or next week or whatever. The issue though is what's gone from here for me to a certain extent is what I say here will just stay here. So that makes me. So now we've got to think, oh my God, what is it going to look like on Tuesday morning? Whereas before I wouldn't have worried about that. I'd have just come here, had my heckle, whatever I would do, and go away. So I think it's making us a little bit more responsible on what we should really be saying.
But not everyone.
Not everyone. No, it doesn't restrain me, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm going to take a wander.
So, do you remember the first speaker that made an impression on you? The philosopher. That is a philosopher. Well, in a way, yes, because he's questioning things. You know, the philosopher is somebody that asks the why, the where, the when, the how of everything.
But Tan would have been...
Religious philosopher.
20, 30 years ago, Tan would have been someone we all knew at Speaker's Corner. Tan is now a global superstar because of media in the park.
Because of the media.
Yeah, so Tan is now known by people who probably don't even come here because they've seen him on YouTube or they've seen him on a channel. Massive difference. If you're going to get offended here, don't come here, basically. This is a place of ridicule and debate and discussion, and it's very educational sometimes. We learn things about each other. I get that. But it is deep down also a place of ridicule. And if you come here and you're offended by your religion, your non-belief, your whatever, just don't enter here, because enter at your peril. This is not a religious place. This is a place of ridicule and historically a place of execution. Remember?
Yes.
But it's in the human. It's in the British DNA. Marx has been here, Lenin's been here, all the greats of the world have come to this place to make a speech. Incredible.
I remember Kojak used to come here, Jerry Springer.
Kojak? Oh, Telly Savalas used to come here. He did come once, Telly Savalas.
And
there's a thing about him.
Also Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer used to come here a lot,
Yeah, a lot.
And I've seen Jeremy Paxman here a few times, quite a few times, Jeremy.
Well, I believe he was here for his shows, but he was intrigued by, for example, by Martin, that speaks a lot about sex, and by political speakers, because Jerry Springer is quite knowledgeable of world affairs. He travels all the time. And then I remember, what is is the name? Selleck, that actor.
Tom Selleck.
Tom
Selleck.
Selleck, and another one.
I do remember Telly Savalas being here. I just remember that he did come here, and I remember. Jeremy Paxman I've seen quite a few times here. I've actually met him a couple of times.
Yeah.
And Jeremy comes through here sometimes with his dog, and I've had a chat with him. So I've seen him a few times. But you do get a lot of, because this is a collective place, and even a year or so ago, Tommy Robinson came here, didn't he, on the Martin Sellner issue. Where did he decide to eventually make that speech? Speaker's Corner. Did you see him any other weeks here? No, but he did come to Speaker's Corner to make his point about free speech. So it does have that power, this place. Definitely.
It is the soul of humanity. Here, you don't restrain yourself. You say whatever you want. You can be heckled, you can be have a lot of support from the audience, but it's always a very dynamic terrain. And people like dynamism because dynamism is part of the world the way it is, the part of continuous, everlasting change, evolution.
I think the other thing, if I can make a comment on this, which I don't think it's controversial, the comment I'm going to make, I think it's actually reality, which I love about this. This place is a great leveller. And what I mean by a leveller, I'm sitting here, and who do I meet here? Millionaire restaurateurs, politicians, people in the celebrities, former musicians I've met here who have played in rock bands, who are now friends of mine here. All sorts of people. It's a leveller. So for example, I come here as Ian, I've got whatever history, whatever my work is, you, whatever yours, right? It doesn't matter to us. We are a Speaker's Corner club, so when we come together, I don't care if you're...
Sit.
It doesn't matter to me if you're on the bottom of the social scale or the top of the social scale.
We are talking about the Speaker's Corner, the way it is and the way it is going to be tomorrow, but what it is today and what it was in the past. It's a chronohistory of the soul of humanity. This is the soul of humanity.
So what we're saying is this is a place of great levelling. So when you come here, some of these people here are former musicians, famous musicians, politicians. There's people at the highest income level and the people at the lowest. But when we all come here, we're all the same. So the common denominator, as I call it, is Speaker's Corner. So it doesn't matter what social scale you're in, it doesn't matter what your life history is. At the end of the day, we're going to have a conversation on a Sunday afternoon in a public park, and who cares if you earn 300,000 a year or 2,000 a year? It doesn't make a blind bit of difference. In some ways, it's a great leveller, that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of insults hurled in the park. But insults are usually something that the speakers generally don't hook to the insult. It means that just by being a speaker, they understand that when you hook to the insult, you reward the offender, the villain. And they learn something, at least a very important aspect, that people can hurt you physically, financially, but they cannot hurt you psychologically. The psychological harm, it's you and you only that inflict it upon yourself. Now we are on camera, and I saw 3 guys on the last post of my meeting calling me old babushka, crazy old woman, but simply because they don't agree with my point of view. So I never answer to this kind of insults, because I understand people are not only hurt by insults, but by your point of view. Her friends one day came here to have a meeting about the women's situation in the world, full of insults, the most ugly women in the world, So what? Don't look at the physical aspect or of the age of people. Automatically, when you look at people just physically or for the way they talk, you automatically become into the ranks, nitty-gritty of racism.
Well, the other thing is that we live in Britain is a very, like a lot of countries, a very, very socially structured country. I mean, we come from the old feudal system. We lived as land and tenant owners, and we lived in an era where we had the landed gentry down to the workers and the peasants. That's our system. However, Speaker's Corner is a very interesting place for me because you come here and genuinely you'll talk to people that you probably would not ever, in some ways, in normal go and necessarily want to go and talk to. I know it sounds weird, it isn't weird, because we tend to go within our own social circles. So even at work, we all in our social circles, we go to work and we know all our work colleagues. So we're in that little bubble with all the friends at work, and we come out of work and we go home to our families and we get on the train and that's it. And we all stand like this, no one looks at each other, right?
And in the elevator.
Even worse there, yeah. And so you get on the London Underground in the rush hour. It's the most packed place ever. You're your most loneliest ever. No one's going to talk to you. They're all going to be like this and reading the paper and all that. That's what Britain is to me. So on a Sunday, to come here and talk to all and sundry, people I know by first name turns now from all walks of life, who'll give me a hug or I'll shake hands, because we know each other. The common denominator is here.
Yeah,
so we created
only
another social
lately.
circle, basically.
Only lately, Speaker's Corner has become a big family.
Yeah.
It used to be a place of tourists, where you really grew intellectually, learning the cultures of people coming as far as Middle East, or China, or Indochina, or Africa, Latin America, Australia. So it was a place of enrichment, because tourists bring their own eyewitness experience, which is the most valuable.
So my father bringing me here in 1968 as a child when I first came here, he decides to walk into this park, and because of that now, as I am much older now, I now have a social group of people I know here. I mean, we have phone numbers of people here that I know and never think. These are people, complete strangers, that I've walked into a park and now my friends that we now WhatsApp and text each other all week and things, and we send each other music videos and all sorts of things because we know what our common interests are. And even recently, I've never done this before at Speaker's Corner ever in my life, there was a few of us went out for a drink one night on a Friday night. I mean, it's just not, so it's a very nice situation, but we've all come from literally nowhere and all collected in one place. The common denominator, freedom of speech, Speaker's Corner. And the other thing, one final point, there are people that I didn't always get on with when I first came here, who now I would class as people I get on very well with, so that's a good sign as well.
Yeah,
so,
but those are very prejudiced people.
Yeah, but there are people that will become your friends, you know.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers. So that's it.
Take a seat.
That's it.
What are you talking about?
We're talking about Speaker's Corner,
About the
actually.
Speaker's Corner, the way it
You heard of
is,
it? You heard of it?
The way it was.
Yeah, it used to be here, didn't it?
Yeah,
at one
used to
point.
That's very good. Well, what do you think of Speaker's Corner
When is the
today?
first time, sorry, I just want to know, it's not possible, I want to know when was the first time she came here. Yeah, you. 2019. So.
January.
So I came to the park, and when I went to the park, had the neighborhood opinions, but there are like a majority of people, there's very ignorant people, like if you say something, a point of your view that you don't like, that they don't like, they're gonna attack you.
Yeah.
Say some nasty stuff that you're A, you're B, you're C. Like, and you just get from your opinion. They don't like.
They don't let you express.
Yeah, they don't like to express, what you're saying.
Yes.
So it's just like, there's a lot of ignorant people, what I've seen in the past, my experience.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people actually come. They come for the argument.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Mostly it's about the camera. You want this camera to speak this on. And most people, they do it for the camera. Which to me, it just sounds really...
Well, yeah, except that it's been here for nigh on 200 years, almost 200 years.
Yeah.
And I think probably longer than that. And the thing is that people have always come here to argue.
Yeah.
People have always come here to argue. And that, I mean, although you might not like the fact that people actually argue, I mean, I think it's quite healthy. There's not too much violence. I mean, and I think people can have a right old sort of...
No, last year there was a lot of violence. Last year
We've set up this
was
collaboration
really bad.
which is now with the police, which is now has definitely improved things. We know physically by the facts it has. But the issue is that you're right, you're absolutely spot on this, is that of course you come in because you enjoy the argument, we enjoy the look, I laugh with everybody every week here. I say, if I ever start agreeing with everybody, chuck me out.
Yeah.
There's no use putting it. The point is, though, we can still show respect while doing that. So the issue is that it's quite nice to now know those people or know something about their lives, the ones I don't always agree with, rather than just coming for an argument. But you're right, a lot of people's first reason for coming here is for a nice controversial argument. That's where it all starts.
I wonder if it's a male-female thing. Like men like a nice argument, women like
A debate.
a debate, discussion. Yeah. Whereas we just want to argue with you. We just want to argue.
Yeah, UFC, yeah. I mean, everybody comes for different reasons to speak at school. I'm on a camera now on COE here, right? Because we're doing a structured discussion here. But I don't go looking for this. So there's some people are coming here because they've got a channel to push or whatever, and we realise this. So I've been coming all these years. I don't care if I get filmed or not filmed. I quite like it. Okay, this is nice to do this. But then I'm going to have other discussions later that haven't been filmed at all with people. And the thing for me is that some people are coming with an agenda, and there are a mixture of agendas here. There are people funding their channels here, whatever. But it's not always a bad thing. It's just there is a mix of things here. But technology has changed its place forever for me, as I said before. But I do totally agree with this gentleman, totally, that I actually think that the spice of it is coming to the argument.
The spice is there.
And I think you're right.
Excuse me, can I ask you?
The Monty Python sketch.
Can I ask him how long ago he came here? How long ago did you come here?
I started coming almost about 2 years ago. I mean, I came here in the 1970s, but only just like once, and then it was boring in those days. The thing, it was just politics. It was just it was just haiku and communists.
Haiku.
Loads and loads of communists.
Haiku came in 87 or 89.
Yeah, but there were communists here before him.
For him,
Loads and loads. Yeah. If you came here, everybody would be talking about politics.
So it was mostly politics.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it was as boring as hell. It was really, really boring.
Yeah. What was boring about politics?
Do you know what you're interested? It's interesting because all those years I've been coming, I went through from 68 with my father. I came from the 70s, and I had a little gap, and I came again. The 70s was a very unusual period, I think, for politics and all sorts of things. This became incredibly political, didn't it, in the 70s? That was that era, as you quite rightly say.
The anti-war movements,
strikes,
anti-nuclear movements.
lots of strikes.
And it became very
look at Scargill.
Scargill. I mean, my father used to come here and he used to bait Anthony Wedgwood Benn.
Was he here?
Yeah, he used to come here, and my father used to call him Stansgate, and he used to go mad because, of course, he
Lord Stansgate?
because he never took that peerage, and my father would purposely call him Lord Stansgate to wind him up, and it was hysterical. But you are right, there was a period where it wasn't such an interesting world to be in. It was a very dark period for Britain.
Too many like-minded people.
The 70s were very the 3-day weeks. This whole issue is like very.
You didn't need to come here for politics in
No,
those
I
days.
grew up in it.
Politics was at work, you know what I mean?
Well, when you went home and the lights went off, your politics was at home. Suddenly there wasn't any light. They turned the lights off because the miners' strike or something like that.
Yeah.
So suddenly you didn't need politics here. You had politics in your own home.
Yeah,
You're watching
yeah,
it.
that's
Very true.
all you heard
Very true.
was politics.
Very true.
And the park was not anesthetized, it's not, the common like-minded discourse is on politics. The park cannot escape that.
If you speak to PC Barnes, he'll tell you that apparently, I don't know about it, but he said there used to be pitched battles.
Oh, there were.
Really?
Baton charges.
Yeah, up and down the.
My father used to come and say, "We're not staying here today." And suddenly there'd be a baton charge.
So he enjoyed the battlefield.
Come
Loved
through.
it. He must have loved it.
Yeah, look at us
A
arguing.
line of policemen running down
he would take me
here,
away. It was only a
just
little
hitting
thing.
you,
He would take me away.
hitting everybody with
Your
truncheons to get
father
out of the way.
was also important.
And he said that was a regular
My
thing
father
every
just loved
every
saying
Sunday.
And my great grandmother was a suffragette. She was an actual suffragette, my great grandmother. So there is a history of this in our family, yeah. So I think that's probably where we've got it from somewhere, if you believe in all that. She was a suffragette, yeah. She marched through here many
You are
times.
so verbally fluent,
Yeah.
You came from
My great grandmother
school,
Rose, I now put this on
domestic
camera,
school.
was imprisoned for 10 days at Holloway
yeah?
for trying to get women the vote for Britain, and I'm very proud of her for that, by
We
the way.
tried to have a women forum here,
She was a
but
suffragette, my
it
grandmother.
was on YouTube,
My grandmother Rose.
and the attack was so vicious that it seems there was no purpose about it. And all we were talking about was the women got given right to have total control on their reproductive system. That's what was all
Well, it would
about.
probably be useful if I wasn't in charge of your reproductive system, wouldn't it? So it does seem logical that a woman should have the right to have her
When
own.
was this?
This was in
You wouldn't want me in control of your reproductive system, so it does make sense.
This was in September 18, and there was this forum, there was this lady, Zubidia, and Betty as
Betty,
well.
yeah, Betty, yeah.
And Betty was very informed, very well read,
Yeah, she's a very strong female.
very strong,
Betty actually-
very assertive, from
Betty is
Nigeria.
very, very good speaker.
Even
from
Sabina
Nigeria.
as well.
She's very eloquent in what she says, actually.
And you were
She comes
attacked,
over-
verbally
Yeah.
attacked.
Yeah,
Attacked in the park. I
Ridiculous.
remember in one
Should never
video,
go on, actually.
this lady was had this guy attacking her.
Yeah,
and
Physically
she-
attacking you.
No,
not hit you,
I mean not hit you,
Push
but
you?
push you, try to not let you speak at all. And I remember her answering back to this guy, and she could put him in line, and this was the only way they could talk at all. They could not speak
Well, that's
anywhere.
look, the whole point of what we're doing with the panel is to stop this issue.
When you give like female, when we do a sister so-called, these people will interrupt us and just attack
Yeah.
our point
They
of
don't let
speech.
you speak.
They don't let you
They
speak.
don't let you
So what I do in a sensible way, I just tell them, like, listen, like, I'm having a speech with my sisters. We're having a discussion. There's no point of you to interrupt my speech, my freedom of speech that I'm speaking to. And I was just kind of pushing him away, not like hard, but just kind of saying to him, just move away, you're interrupting us, you're very rude and all of that. It's kind of disrespectful, when I'm speaking, when this sister speaks or any other sisters, it's kind of disrespectful. So I told them to just, leave it and drop it and just move.
I wonder why they attacked you. I wonder what that was about. I wonder why they
No, the
attacked you.
discourse we were talking, I was also part of the group. The discourse we were talking about was that...
Was it Betty? Because Betty can be really, really strong.
No, Betty's a very strong.
She's a very strong woman, very
She
strong
actually talks
person.
a lot of sense, Betty,
Yeah,
in her own way.
she does.
Oh
she
God,
does.
yeah.
Even if you don't always agree with everything, she
You're
puts
not
it
gonna
over
agree
very,
with
very well.
everything, Betty, but she's a very strong female.
So Zubida as well.
Even
Very
Zubida as well.
well.
Zubida, she's very strong.
I know so this is on camera. I do. I think she. No, I'm saying to her, she does because I've met
Them
Betty.
two
She's
are
very
very
good.
strong.
She's good at it.
Yeah, then she's tall and, very...
But when you hear her speak, whatever her view is, you know where she stands on her view, and that's very important.
I wonder.
Physically, she looks tough.
She's
Physically.
tough. Yeah, she looks tough.
I wonder whether I don't know, but I wonder whether it was like Zubida.
Yeah.
Zubida tends to like people move towards you a bit like a magnet.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
wonder if I mean no disrespect to Zubida, but if Zubida hadn't been amongst you, whether the reaction would have been the same, or whether people came towards her because they are. There's a lot of people that seem to be quite antagonistic towards Zubida.
Yeah,
Is that not
yeah.
true?
Yeah.
I don't mean any disrespect to her, but
No, but I believe they definitely...
Were they attacking her or all of you?
It's all of us.
The audience was definitely after Zubida. I would say
Yeah, but-
7 out of 10 in the audience were after
So I
Zubida.
think at the end of it, or even Zubida, who I also I've had reason to be in a meeting with her at the Speakers Corner panel. Betty was there.
Yeah.
I've seen them in a different, obviously, environment. Also eloquently put their view across.
Yeah.
The issue is when you come in the Speakers Corner, going back to what we're actually debating or sort of discussing here, not debating, we're discussing it. Is the fact that there are different pressures here, different people will action in on something. And as you say, you quite rightly say, somebody coming for an argument, here's women talking about women's issues, and has got something, will go and make a statement somehow. So how do they make a statement? My statement might be to come and argue it out with you. Another statement is to come and disrupt, get violently happens. So what we've got to do is keep this place for speech. And I think speech is what it's all about.
Yeah, but do you know what
And that's
really
where it goes wrong. That's the bit that needs
the
control.
audience was...
verbally attacking isn't such an issue.
The audience was very antagonistic to her narrative because she was fighting verbally and also in her own organization for the right of poor women to abort, and the religious people absolutely
Yeah, of course not, because it goes
taboo.
against their narrative.
They don't want that. And she was right, the right of poor women to have the protection when they bleed every month, because they can't afford it, really. They cannot afford those, they are quite expensive.
But that's going back onto so if you had that sort of subject, right? Now I might sit and surprise you because I'm very much a feminist. As a man, I actually love the rights of women. I just think I'm an unmarried guy.
But she made it politicized into socialism that provides for poor women.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but there's other side of the argument. Somebody will come along and won't be on the feminist angle. Will be on the religious angle. And we're pushing that narrative and that agenda. The way to do this might be what we're doing almost here, is you have that type of sit-down forum. But if it's a woman's issue, I think it must be led by women at first, to then see what the reaction is. Just if it's a man's issue, it should be led by a man. And then you still have to have the debate between the women and men, but it's the women that lead that debate to start it, but it needs to be in a controlled environment.
Because
someone's going to come, religious people are just going to surround you. If they don't agree on abortion, you're going to get half of the Christianity lot here coming round here like the army.
It's going to be like a UFC.
It's like the man,
you know what really...
It's just like, look, I'm a non-believer. Everyone knows I'm a non-believer. You don't think I've never been surrounded by Muslims and Christians before?
You know what
Shouting at me?
really put off the crowd?
But you can hold your own.
Because especially African women, they suffer not only exploitation and racism, but sexism as well. They suffer 3 forms of exploitation. And the crowd thought, oh, but this is a platform that have a very strong stance to put forward. And they would not go for that. You know, regardless of antipathy on a personal level, they would not accept that there are some entities in this world that suffer more than others, because it's something to be a white woman, middle class, or even poor white woman, and suffer sexism, but it's part of whatever is the culture.
Sexism is a very, very interesting thing because sexism in Britain will be different to the sexism in Saudi Arabia or in Iran or somewhere like this. I'm not just picking those because they're Muslim, I'm just trying to give China, for example, anywhere, China as well, anywhere. Japan, yeah, I'm not talking about just Muslim countries, I know I picked two out, I'm talking about everything. So everywhere in the world has a different view on sexism. Why? Because its laws and protection of women are different. Its rules about protection of women and men, what their rights are different in various countries. Some are run by religious edicts, so the rights of women may be different if I was having a discussion in Tehran today than they are in central London. So what are the rights of women? There has to be a worldwide structure for the rights of women, yes, but you're not going to get a global thing because each country has its own agenda through religion that in some ways from time to time can restrict women's rights.
Yeah, let's not forget that some countries don't even have a constitution on human rights. Never mind about the rights of women. In Middle East, which is just not even countries, those are sheikhs. Sheikhs,
Sheikhs.
There is no written constitution on the rights of the population. So what do you expect about women's rights when men don't even have those rights?
If you do that again, you're meeting with was it Wendy? Was it Wendy?
No, it's Betty.
Zubida? Betty and Zubida.
Yes.
Might I suggest if you do it again, please do it again. That you do it over by the police van, because people would be less inclined to give you any trouble. Do you know what I mean? If it's near the police, they might behave just a little bit more.
I think it's great when people like Zubida and Betty come here and they debate. And I want to see more women debating here because I've seen some tremendous debates by women here. But the
You
issue
just don't
is,
see them. You just don't see
this
women.
is
not.
No, there was a woman lately that was speaking for men's rights. There was a woman, what's the name? Nati Kadifa was speaking for men's rights. And all I can tell is that the mood in the park has changed because she was speaking for men's rights 1.5 years before, and all the men were using her like their idols. No, 1.5 years ago it was the idol of all the male crowds. Last time she spoke 1.5 months ago, she had very serious confrontation only by men, saying that she is defending the undefendable because men ego has defended men's rights throughout the centuries. So what are you talking about?
As he said, the thing is that, what you've got is a bear pit here, isn't it? It's a bear pit.
Yeah.
I mean, I always laugh about it. It's like, if anyone knows it, it's like what I call the Chicago Board of Trade. If you've ever been to the Chicago Board of Trade, which I has, it's where people sit in an open cry market in America and scream prices at each other trying to buy and sell. This is an open cry market. So if you come with a women's, I'll tell you exactly how I would do it. If you come with a women's issue, come in huge numbers of women. Come in a huge group and put the women's issues here, right?
These are from India. It's from India. From India.
But if you come in so you come in a group, a massive group of the women all come together, and then you put on this big thing. The thing is that what we can't legislate here for is 3 of you standing there, 4 of you doing a speech on women's views, and a load of men are going to come round and start trying to shut you up or trying to mimic it. You know why we can't? Because it goes with the DNA of Speaker's Corner. The issue is that the only way that I think debate flourishes here, there's a strength to someone's opinion when they do it in numbers, so that's the strength. You agree. I mean, you could place it somewhere near the police, like you said. But I just think if you come into an open cry forum and it's a very male-orientated place, the way we're going to change that to make it more enjoyable for women is to bring more women in to come and fight their corner.
Yeah. Not having women
Fight
in
the corner.
Speaker's Corner is a disgrace
Fight the corner.
on the
Fight the-
English culture,
It's your corner.
which is
It's our corner.
by definition
That's it.
very tolerant.
It's not
You
male
don't
corner,
even
it's
need
our
an
corner.
ID in this country. You can be more tolerant than
It's
that.
not male corner, it's our corner. You know, it's not a membership club. I'm terribly sorry. You have to you can all come here. Just walk off the street. You can always do it. So walk down Oxford Street now, recruit as many feminist women as you can, and tell them all to come here now. We'll have another 40 people in here, and then they'll have a fantastic debate, and the men won't have a chance to win the argument.
I wonder if this is I wonder if this is a man's space. Look,
I think so. I know
Well,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
I think it is.
if you think about it, do you know the House of Commons? Do you know Question Time? Apparently, men watch Question Time and they love it when you get two people arguing at each other, right? Apparently, a woman will watch exactly the same piece of film and she will hate it. And I wonder whether that's what Speaker's Corner is about. It's about us arguing, right? And it's. I might be wrong. I'm just throwing this idea up in the air. So shoot me down if I'm wrong. But I wonder whether it's something that women don't like to argue. They don't like that. They hate all of this.
Yeah.
That women
There's a lot of noise.
Well, maybe it's the
keeps
and men
intimidation.
sort of men sort of being men. You know, like
Yeah.
It might be the intimidation they don't like. So the intimidation here is what we've tried to sort out with the forum, the panel. It's
But
not
the whole idea of people coming in and you saying one thing and then, no, you're talking rubbish, mate. Right?
Mate, yeah.
You know that sort of argument. Is it not the case that women don't like
Can I
that?
counteract it and just say to you, you're not wrong, because nobody's wrong or right. I understand.
No, tell me I'm wrong. Come on.
No, you're not wrong, because there is validity in what you're saying, and I understand why you said it. Well, the only thing I would say, I'm not saying you're wrong, the only thing I would definitely say is maybe we're not respecting women enough in some ways to understand. I've seen a hell of a lot of good women argue here, and they can argue their case. I've seen it. So there are definite people out there who are also women come here and they thrive in this thing where they're arguing and yelling. I've been on the receiving end of it myself, I know. So you are right, it's maybe fewer, far between than we have maybe with the men, but those women are here, like this lady here. You're not a shrinking wallflower, are you?
I know.
She can argue a point, right? So you can argue your point in your own way. I've seen other women come in this place, they really can. So what we have to do is try and make them realise this is a place. But we can't. I don't think it's fair to say everyone's so timid because we like to argue. I think I've seen many women here who hold their own here and argue. Okay.
I've been here 2 years. I don't know that I've ever seen
just say that
a
bit.
woman sort of batting it round the pot. You know, really
I have.
banging away.
I
I've never seen a.
I have many
I mean, no disrespect to it. I've never seen a woman really sort of do the. I might be wrong. I might be wrong.
But
In
because
2
I
years.
have and you may not have, which is fair enough. That's why. But I do get your point. But I still would go with one point of yours. This is definitely more male orientated, and I think it does need. It would be. I would love to come to a Speaker's Corner where it was completely like 50-50. It would be great fun because some of the debates would be so much more richer anyway. We learn so much more having a mixture of women and men really going at each other. But it is. You're right. It's territory. It can be a little bit intimidating, I think.
I wonder if they ought to. I wonder if they could try having like a woman's corner in the corner. Do you know what I mean? Like an area where just for this Sunday, only women could go in this space.
Yeah, but you have to consider this. Women give birth. That's a humongous task. Women rear children. Horrible, most hard work you can think of. Women cook, clean. Housework is very time consuming. There is very little time left for a woman for herself and caring for themselves. So the time factor is a very important consideration when it comes the absence of women in the park. You know, rearing children, giving birth, rearing children, housework, all unpaid labor, all unpaid labor. A man would never ever give birth to a child if he could, if he has to go through his whole life until the day he dies on unpaid labor. A man would not accept that. A man would only go for a paycheck or do for some kind of reward. When it comes to paid labor, women are really the victim of the way
So
the
from
world
a woman's
is.
perspective,
It is.
What from a woman's perspective, going back to this whole point about the speakers' corner debate we're having here about the way this place functions, okay? I would love to see much more debates with Betty's and Zabidas and loads of women.
Then start raising children
Yeah, but
and doing homework. You will see more.
what I'm saying is that there are people that clearly come. You look around here, look at the now, right? The issue is there are lots of women in this park.
Yeah, of course, there are.
Right. The issue is people turn up. We don't want them to think it's an intimidatory place. We want them to think it's a place they can have that hard debate, hard discussion, disagreement and whatever. And that's what we're trying to achieve by that forum, to make it a safe, less intimidatory place. We're hoping that that eventually will bring a safer environment for people, of all people, to come and feel safer. So the issue is that this is a fantastic part of British history. To be able to come on a Sunday and interact with people you wouldn't normally is a magnificent thing to be able to do. But if it's all going to become, we always worry, it's so male-orientated, but you're right, it is to a certain extent. But we've got enough women here to start a debate now.
In the crowd there are women, but they're still a minority.
Oh, I know we've got
Even
Winter Wonderland, that's where they're
even
going.
in the crowd, they are a
But they're coming
minority.
through here, yeah.
They're still a
Yeah. So what do we do? So do we change the way the debates are done?
8 men to women.
Do we
The
have more?
ratio is heartbreaking. The ratio.
Do we have
8
more
men
sit
for
down?
every 2 women in the park is heartbreaking on a
Do you
woman.
ever
more debates?
Do you ever think that you've got to be a bit? Do you never think that you've got to be a bit mad to come here? Mad to come here? Don't you think you've got to be a bit mad?
Well,
Sometimes.
yes.
You actually, who comes on a Sunday afternoon? Who comes here to start telling the world about their political beliefs or their religious beliefs or their personal beliefs? You've got to be mad to do that. And
I would disagree. I wouldn't say you've got to be mad. I've got to say you actually have got to be quite interested in your life, your world, because I find it fascinating to come here and talk to people like this. The other thing that's interesting for me, what do we do all week? We spend time on these. So for me to communicate to her if I wanted to, I don't know, just say in the week, text. See you Sunday, text, right, hang on. Come to a Sunday, the phone goes in the pockets and we're having a conversation. Wow, something new.
Real people.
That's what I think it is. It's
Not
giving us a reason to come and talk to each other rather
Real
than
people.
text.
Well,
It's
I don't know
stopping
whether,
us texting each other, we're talking to each other.
I don't know whether it's
Talking
the
to each
same. I don't know whether it's the same.
Instead of
For,
texting each other.
I don't know whether it's the same for you.
I think
but
it's a release from it.
as a man, I mean, I actually enjoy seeing a real argument between two people. I just enjoy seeing two people going.
Me
The
too,
theatre.
me too.
Really, it's just
I
like-
love controversy. That's the reason I come.
Really?
I have very strong political beliefs, but I like controversy. I like different points of view because you only grow intellectually if somebody is opposing your point of view, and you have to build like a survival drive to make your agenda be heard.
But all week, when we're not on the phone, we're all being really, really well behaved and polite. Right?
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for you to come up to some total stranger that you don't
Totally
know
agree.
and say,
Totally.
"You are talking absolute nonsense."
yes, exactly.
No, I'm not, you're not. You're not. You're talking
Well, she
perfect
might
sense.
be. She
No.
usually is.
But, no.
usually is.
I enjoy
No, you're not.
nonsense.
No, you're not.
I love it.
But it's an opportunity.
You talk over me. I
Where-
can't shut you up.
Where else can you go in the world where you can actually go up to a complete stranger and say, "You're talking absolute rubbish"?
I mean, you're all right. Come off the tube. Keep imagine now. None of us have ever been here before. And I could do my first day, and I come off the tube. If I know anybody here, we're all strangers. I go, "You're talking absolute rubbish." You can do it here.
Well, you cannot
You
do
never
it
normally
for
interact with
sure
people like that, would you?
in United States where there is lawsuits everywhere. In United States you have to be much more restrained.
Oh, yeah.
Because I tried to make
go
a
there often.
speaker's corner in New York, but
I thought they had one in Central Park.
no, there is not. No, there are lots of
No,
demonstrations.
there is one
because they have all the
Washington
Latinos.
Square. There is one, if I remember rightly. There's one in Central Park and Washington Square.
Where you can speak
you
freely.
can speak. There is a speaker's corner there. Yeah,
No,
'cause
but
I've been
those
there
are
many times. In
demonstrations.
Washington Square. You can do it.
Yeah, they are not
been there a few
really
times.
speaker's corner. There
But
are
not like this is unique.
some groups of
is actually-
African Americans that talk against racism, some groups of African Jews that they believe they are the only real Jewish people on earth.
Oh yeah, we have all the time.
They have small groups, but
Do you want me to name them? I know which
actually
ones
it's
they are.
only the speakers that speaks. There is not certainly intervention from the audience. And those that listen believe 100% what the speaker says. So it's the most boring nonsense you can think of.
The issue is, you're right, it's all about the interaction and debates. But I do honestly say, and I think that's the point, this has been going on well before any of us had mobile phones and everything, clearly. But there is more to it now. I think if you spend your week like I do, well, I travel quite a lot for the job, but you know, I also spend a lot of time on emails, I spend a lot of time texting people and WhatsApping and doing this, and all my conversations are on the blooming and then I come in the weekend, I can walk in and talk to the guys.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
have we got £1? You can help me out.
This is a place where people
Because I need
come without a wallet.
Yeah, because
I don't bring the wallet in the car. I don't bring the wallet.
Because
The
I'm
reason-
in Cardiff, I need to get back to Cardiff.
You're very lucky today because I don't carry money at Speaker's Corner, but I've got some today.
Yeah, nobody carries money here.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you very
I used to
much.
carry money. I was robbed here in the car.
Thank you.
Can you
okay, you take care, right? Whether he's going to use
After
it,
that,
no idea.
that's
But
it.
No, he's looking around for somebody else to.
I know.
I usually don't carry money.
Wandering around looking for someone
No, it's
else.
better not to carry.
I don't carry.
See what happens. I don't care.
But what I am
I'll give you
thinking about
story's
is,
not probably not true.
unfortunately, we will not see a women presence in the park.
Which we should
And,
well see more friends. They're
no,
here now.
I think
It's just that we need
no.
to engage the women here more, need to come into this environment. The other thing that will do it, if you're going to start to sit down circles and all this, which we're doing now anyway, we should advertise that there's going to be a women's debate.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people like Betty and Zabina can say, come to Speaker's Corner, or not, you know, on Sunday, 3 o'clock we're going to debate feminist issues, whatever, I don't know, pollution, anything. And what you'll do is you'll start your own speaking club like we've done here. So we are a club, but we're I mean, there's 2 guys and 2 women here, right? So it does, you can do this without, you know, causing an issue. The point is that it just needs a bit of common sense, I think. But intimidation, not acceptable anymore.
He's a great guy.
Not be tolerated. That's not about the words, it's intimidation, it won't be. But words, yeah, words will always
Cops
be
have
allowed
done a
as
pretty good job on that, haven't they? The cops have done a pretty good job.
We don't, the panel has worked
Yeah,
really
but
well.
when you have a discussion, for
very clever, what's
example, I had a discussion about suicide, and the guy that was sitting there comes out saying that animals are superior to humans because they don't commit suicide.
But I told you what suicide was.
I
I know you want to kill yourself
Yeah.
to commit suicide.
Then I really believe there is, like he says, some madness going on.
You don't.
What I'm going to do now, I've really enjoyed it, but I'm
Thanks
going to
very
go
much.
and
Good
I'm going to walk around now and heckle someone.
Thank you very much.
I'm now going to be the
for the
normal,
filming.
naughty Ian now, and I'm going to go and heckle. Thanks very much.
At least
Thanks
they
for the
know
chat. Thanks for the chat.
our position on what's going on in the park. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for that.
Content over everything. Content over everything. From your melody.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Okay.
Listen.
Firstly, I just want to say happy good club to my subscribers. One of my subscribers over here, watching on my channel. I won't say his name because he doesn't stick. So anyone associated, I do want to keep it quite positive in terms of why I'm saying happy good club. Basically, that means we're celebrating Good Morning David's 150th anniversary of his birth in 1469 in the Punjab in India, and he's the founder of ContentCOE. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into his life because I actually want to do a separate video, maybe with some of the people discussing the influence of Good Morning David, but I do want to kind of just touch